Hey, what's going on, Luke? And I think it's been at least a couple of days since I've done a new video regarding the new Rugby League video game. So it's about time that we bust one out. And what we're going to be busting out is the Rugby League Live 5 wish list, the Rugby League 25 wish list. Now, there's going to be some absolute obvious ones. There's going to be some that, seem very realistic. There might even be some that seem a little bit far-fetched. But hey, this is a wish list after all. You're not going to get everything, but I think these things are quite achievable. So let's start off with the first one, and the first one is being that the fan hub is included, or some sort of fan hub. We've seen how the longevity of Rugby League Live 4, the longevity is there because of the fan hub and purely the fan hub. I mean, the game has not changed at all, but the teams are all up to date. It's very easy to use. It's probably one of the better creator team modes out there. I feel like generally in other games, when you have custom teams, you kind of rely on the modding community, and that definitely is there. But we could just go on the fan hub and download 2025 jerseys. You can still do it to this day. That's how great the fan hub is. Even on Rugby League Live 3, the fan hub is still active and still has people updating lineups. The jerseys aren't there, but in terms of the actual lineups, people are making new lineups and doing all that sort of stuff and uploading it. So I think that's essential. I think if you go to, say, like a WWE 2K, there's community creation. So I feel like other game modes definitely have something similar. But yeah, the fan hub, it's top notch. I think if you look to other games, a lot of them have something similar. Some of them aren't really required because they come out yearly, like your NBAs and your FIFAs and such. But I look at something like WWE 2K, which has the creation center. I think it's a good representation of how powerful, the community creations, like a created player, created superstar, whatever you want to call it, but it shows how valuable it is to have, a good creative player. And even if you go into a Be a Pro, which that's another one, I would like to think Be a Pro is going to be there. Despite me not really playing it in Rugby League Live 4, I did do a big series on Rugby League Live 3, but I just think there should be modes that were in previous ones. Like, I don't want them to take out modes. There's no reason for them to take out Be a Pro. I know it's not the biggest and best sort of game mode, but at the same time, don't regress. Like, you want it to keep progressing. Don't take out game modes, and then especially don't take them out and then put them back in and try and put it as like a brand new game mode. And speaking of game modes, obviously we're going to be having Pro Team. It's Ultimate Team, essentially. I've done a whole video on that, but the Pro Team, we're going to see Legends, I would hope. Legends, Icons, whatever they want to call it. Immortals. Immortals is probably a good one to fit the Rugby League sort of narrative. But I think it'd be great to have some blasts from the past, have some absolute legends. Like, imagine playing Pro Team and having like a Sonny Bill Williams and a Jonathan Thurston, Andrew Johns, Darren Lockyer, Billy Slater, all these guys who are absolute legends of the game, who I think really translate over to the video game aspect. And I think they definitely can open up a whole new market in terms of money making for the makers of the game, Big Ant. I think this is definitely a must-have. Some sort of legends of the game, if not some legendary teams as well. I've seen NBA and a few others that, yes, they have the legendary players in terms of, My Team and Ultimate Team and all that sort of stuff, but there are some actual legendary teams. So that'd be quite good to have some legendary teams, if not some sort of game mode based around some of those legend sides. Maybe you've got to do some sort of challenge. Maybe you can, play grand finals of old and try and reverse the result or something like that. That would be quite cool. Speaking of game modes, a fair few people have mentioned it, but I think it'd be quite cool. I don't think it's realistic though. I genuinely don't think it's going to be in the game, and I think you're nuts if you think it's actually going to be there. But some sort of pro clubs would be quite cool, where you can play just one position. You can play online. You can have someone playing fullback, someone playing halfback, someone playing prop, hooker, whatever you want. Like, that'd be so sick. It'd be so good. But I don't think the servers are that good in Australia to be able to handle it. I mean, whenever I've played online on some of the bigger games, even then, not a great experience. But it would be nice to just have it in the game. That would be something pretty cool. Now, for the next few things, we're going to be talking just gameplay based. And the first one I'm going to talk about is the camera angles. The camera angles need to be a lot better. Now, obviously, we have the behind the play, which is great. Everyone uses that for the most part. But back in Rugby League Live 2, Rugby League Live 3, I used the side-on one, like as if you're watching on a TV. And I know a lot of people aren't a big fan of it, but I'm a big fan of it. And it was unusable in Rugby League Live 4. And even when they made the random patches that they had, which I'll actually mention the patches too soon, but when they would patch it up, like, they didn't even address it then. So you had this game mode where, like, you go to pass left and it would pass right, and because, like, all the controls were just whack when you try to play outside of the behind the play camera, and then even then, like, it just wasn't the same. Now, it was on the same angle, but it just wasn't right. Like, it was literally unusable. So I would like to think that they'll fix up camera angles. I'd also like to think they'd fix the play the ball from Rugby League Live 4, because in previous years, all the way up until Rugby League Live 4, the play the ball was completely fine with me. I had no real problems with it. You could hold on in the tackle, you could do little things here and there, but Rugby League Live 4, literally, I don't think I've ever held down a player on purpose. Like, the amount of times I've given away a held in the tackle penalty, probably a handful, and that's after, 8 years. Just to play the ball speed, which is so important to the NRL, and they're always trying to make everything faster. And then you go on Rugby League Live 4, and it's literally like the slowest thing in the whole game. And that's in comparison to previous games as well, not even real life. So that's definitely something they need to improve on. Another would be the passing. The passing definitely needs improvement. So many intercepts, so many just knockdowns that is a knock-on that doesn't get called a knock-on, and then vice versa, things that you know that you knocked on. Then you take into account the intercepts as well. Like, the intercepts are crazy, and I feel like the Rugby League games definitely do struggle a bit in terms of passing. But I was looking at Rugby 25, and I think I actually did a video on it, but I was looking at some of the gameplay, and it does look somewhat smooth, so we'll see how we go. But offloading was non-existent at Rugby League Live 4. The passing was a bit iffy. It just didn't feel smooth at all. And I guess in terms of the actual game itself, I just hope that it feels smooth. I hope that when you play with players, there's actually a difference in who you play with. If I'm playing with, say for example, Reece Walsh, I would like to think it's going to feel different to me playing with a Connor Tracy, and especially with, your pro team mode. If they all feel similar, why am I inclined to fork out money and try and get a Reece Walsh when I can just play with a Connor Tracy, or I can play with a Kinney or someone like that. Like, there needs to be a big difference in, say, a 90 rated and an 80 rated. There definitely needs to be a difference, and I feel like the previous games haven't really done a great job at it. I feel like there's an element too where I'm talking about Rugby League Live 4. When I'm talking about previous games, I'm mainly sort of talking about Rugby League Live 4, but these little elements where previous games were also the same. But I think the one you've been waiting for, apart from Pro Team, but the thing that we're all excited to play if you're a Rugby League game supporter is the career mode. You always want to make your team great, and chances are you probably can on Rugby League Live 4, and even the previous one, just because the overalls were so cooked after the first couple seasons. I mean, the best players in the game will always be Josh Drinkwater, a guy who couldn't even really crack it in the Super League. He'd be like 96 rated playing for Australia, and that was just a common occurrence. Like, it wasn't the absolute prodigies of the NRL rising up and becoming 95 rated or whatever. It was always these most random players. It absolutely baffled me how some of these guys, and when I do videos and do career modes, it was almost embarrassing that, like, I'm trying to, like, play off that, like, Josh Drinkwater is the best halfback in the game. Meanwhile, you got Nathan Cleary and Mitchell Moses and all these guys rated well below him. Like, they just peaked. But yeah, I definitely think they need to nerf that a little bit. They need to come up with some sort of, maybe what FIFA do, where they have a set potential. Even NBA, they just have some sort of set potential, maybe a couple overalls here and there, depending on form, and then you kind of go with that, rather than have guys who just, you're playing for a season and next minute your 50 rated is a 90 rated in the matter of a couple of seasons. That seems to be a common occurrence in Rugby League Live 4 and Rugby League Live 3. So I would like to think that they'll fix that, and fingers crossed they will. I mean, it's been a lot of years. Surely they can't stuff it up again. Another little element to crew mode that I think would be cool too is just the contracts. I'd love the contract to be a lot better. In Rugby League Live 4, the rules were a lot different. It was 2017 when it came out, but now you can negotiate years in advance. I would love, maybe that's not realistic to do it years in advance, but I would just like contract negotiations to be a lot better. They haven't really changed too much from, literally Rugby League 2, the first ever franchise mode, dynasty mode, whatever it was called. Nothing's really changed too much other than often the contract, if they accept, they accept. But in the previous ones, the actual contracts they've been completely whacked too. Again, it just seems like the career mode, they nail aspects of it and there's great ideas, but the execution is incredibly poor. So you've got halfbacks who are literally like 70 rated on, 600,000 a year, some of the highest paid players in the whole game, just because of the position that they're playing, which, don't get me wrong, somewhat accurate. We've just seen the Dylan Brown situation, but yeah, it just seems weird to me that I can sign a guy who's like 85 rated for, 200,000, but then I have a halfback who's 72 rated and I can't sign him for anything less than 550. It almost begs the question, it's like, don't even have a backup halfback. And I feel like that's what most of the people did. Don't even have your spine players, just chuck random players in because they don't really do too much anyway. So I don't know, that's just something that I think they definitely need to address. Also, what would be cool is just the injuries as well will be a lot better, and suspensions and just a lot of that sort of stuff, a lot more realistic. Like, obviously, they're a big part of the game, but I think it would be cool to see a few more animations in terms of, players staying down rather than, like, but injuries do happen on Rugby League Live 4, but the game completely stops, and then it could be a shoulder injury, but like they're not even holding a shoulder. I just think there should be a few more things that are just a little bit more realistic because it is such a big part of the game, injuries, suspensions, all that sort of stuff. So I would like to think that's another thing that they'll be working on, and I think they would nail, I would hope. Oh, also, the last thing about gameplay that I want to talk about is the set plays. I feel like they definitely need some more set plays. I don't know how they really do it other than the D-pad, but they could go maybe some sort of route that NBA uses, but obviously NBA you can kind of stall on the play. You can't really do that in the NRL, but they definitely need to just have a little bit more communication on what the play actually is, because for years and years I've seen this little diagram, I've seen this little picture of what the play's supposed to be, and very rarely does it actually come off. And also, somewhat, I don't really know how to actually play it. I don't really know who it's supposed to go to. I'm seeing them running little X plays, and I'm like, well, am I supposed to go to the lead runner? Am I supposed to go out the back because they don't really run it? That's just definitely something that they need to fix. Like, if you're going to add set plays to the game, make sure they're actually usable. But that's pretty much everything. The only other thing I can think of is also the NRLW, which I think will be in there. I can't see them putting it in Rugby League Live 4 with the World Cup edition. They've added the females into it. I feel like the game's constantly growing, and them not being in the game, I think that'd be a massive slap in the face. So I definitely think they'll be in the game. But guys, that is my Rugby League Live 5, Rugby League 25, Rugby League 26, whatever you want to call it. The new NRL game, that's my wish list. Let me know in the comment section below if there's anything I've missed. I'm very intrigued to see what you guys think, because I feel like I covered most things, but there's definitely things that I would have missed. So feel free to leave in the comment section below whether you disagree, you agree, anything to add. But guys, get excited. Back in the day, we used to wait for the June 30 deadline in terms of seeing signings. Now we're waiting for the June deadline because it's going to be July, and that's when Rugby League Live 5 is coming out. Well, that's the end of this video. If you happen to enjoy it, make sure you leave a like, subscribe. You know the drill at this point. Everybody YouTuber says it. Just go ahead and do it. It'd really help me out. Also, why not go ahead and check out some of these other videos that are on the screen right now.